Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, that was, yeah, you did. I was like, okay. I was like, man, couldn't be there, but I was there in spirit,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Good question. Can you tell me, is good? If I'm up there, when we could just press play.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and go. So ladies and gentlemen, grab your seat. We're going to get started. And the stragglers that come, we'll talk mean about them. So I'm Don Zavis, National Sales Trainer. John Waechter behind me, David Camara next to me as well. Appreciate you being here today for the second phase of our Business Wednesdays, which is our training program. We've got a great session for you today. David will be starting, and then all three of us will get finished. So get your coffees, get your papers, get your pencils, because some learning's going to be commencing. Mr. Camara, you have the no, you don't have the comms because I jumped before the camera.
Okay, hold on. Let me get this word mark.
We're a well-oiled machine here. We're seasoned professionals.
And a Facebook message. Don Zavis is live now.
This doesn't happen by accident.
Do you have one of your board markers?
You know, what's that?
Let me see one of your board markers. Okay. Thank you.
All right. And you going to count us in? Perfect. Go ahead, Simona.
Hold on. Is it? But in reality, you have to recognize, no, there's certain types of people who we need to become our audience, who's going to become our customers or clients eventually, right? Learning that sometimes you have to catch people at the right time, right? So making sure, are we targeting the right people? Are these people right? So what are certain types of people that might be, relevant to us, right? Maybe when people have a baby. Right? Maybe have a baby. When you have a baby, there's a lot of stock purchases and decisions you start to make going towards that reason. When people get married, right? Let's say you're in financial services and you're helping people raising money, insurance. When people get married, this is another time for you to step in the places that, right? When people get a new job, somebody just comes from surgery, right? Somebody has an accident, a car accident. That's a different time for somebody. There's a different types of conversations when somebody starts a business, right? The next group is that I call it create a trust, consistency, and credibility train. What do I mean by that? Guys, what we have to do is that learning that building trust, consistency by maintaining habits like your energy, your mood, always being around, willingness to help, support. What is that? So things like coming to meetings like this, right? And being the person who's that every time I talk to that person, he always has a smile on his face. Every time I come to that person, they're usually in a good mood. Every time I talk to that person, you know what? They're always at the meeting. They always actually come to networking. What does that mean? It actually starts to build working trust, okay? Tangible trust. They see you as a person who, your stability, you're always there. So guess what? I'm a working relationship. You're a person who most likely are more reliable than the person who you've probably seen once, and I probably will never see him again. Why would I most likely want to trust or put my time into somebody who's doing that? So making sure we build that, right? Another thing, and I really got this from Don as well, but reality, learning that, let's just say I want to talk to Don. Don is the person who I want to become my client. So what I'm going to make sure to do is make sure John, or I put Jorge, I'm going to put Jorge around Don, right? Jorge knows me. Jorge knows I do great work. Jorge knows I'm amazing, right? You know I'm amazing, right? Yeah. So the whole thing is this. So sometimes what is good to do is just say, guess what? People are not going to trust your word, but they'll always trust somebody else's word. So making sure, put somebody else around him, and they will do your bidding for you, right? And so learning, okay, I can strategically, I'm not going to do it, but I can leave you around Jorge, and Jorge might do the work for you. Learning to put the right people around the people you actually want to be around. Is that making sense to you guys? Okay, believing in the long game. What do I mean by that? Okay, learning that to build and prioritizing actual relationships with people. The problem a lot of times is that we're thinking, how am I going to get this meeting with this person? How am I going to get the sale? How am I going to get more money from them? In reality, we have to understand it's about actually genuine relationships with someone that you'll actually learn the actual details you need that's going to get you to realize that this is how I can serve them. Not sell them, but serve them, right? Building a long relationship, you're actually going to be able to say, you know what? You'll be surprised how likely people are more likely to open up to you, because now we're friends, right? We've been together, talked together. Now they're going to start to reveal things to you that are the key ingredients that you're going to use to actually help you get closer to your goal and actually helping you as well. So learning, creating mutual benefits, you know? I have a phrase. I say, before you ask, become an asset, right? So stop trying to ask for the sale, ask for the meeting, and become an asset to somebody, right? What does that mean? Okay, guess what? Oh, I know the business you're in. Oh, you're into making games. You know what? I have a friend who runs educational services. I'll introduce you guys. All of a sudden, I'm one step closer than everybody else in the room. Why? Because I'm willing to put you in a position helps you first, yeah? So learning that it's our job to set those things up for people, that's actually genuinely gonna put you in a better position, okay? Next thing, learn how to frame what you do differently. Okay, guys, let's be honest, right? All of us don't do things that are necessarily the funnest thing in the world. And guess what? They still need to be done. Life insurance, insurance, car insurance, right? You need insurance for your home. Those things are not fun, but it's the way you frame things differently can be put in a way that, you know what, someone's like, you know what, that is true. I never saw it like that, right? So just learning, how can you be better at framing what you do, creating a different narrative about the same thing that you do, right? Next, the education and awareness approach. Guys, guess what? Sometimes it's not about necessarily presenting things in a way that I'm trying to sell it to you. But if I just tell you I'm doing a program highlighting all about insurance, I'm going to teach you about insurance. Usually by learning about something, by educating people about it, what you're doing is opening avenues for people to recognize, you know what, oh, wait, I never knew about that. Now I think I might need that. And after you educate people, you're putting people in the position to become your client, to become a person who wants your product or your services. Is that making sense? All right, next thing, advocacy and passion avenue, right? So there's a beautiful thing. There's a beautiful thing that comes from people. When people see your passion, when people see how much you put into what you do, there's something contagious about that. When people are like, wow, like, you really love that, right? So once again, I'm just using examples of maybe insurance or something. Like, guess what? If you have a passion for children, right? Some of your passion for children is I'm an advocate for children. in reality, it's like that can be an avenue maybe for insurance, right? Because my passion, I believe that we should be protecting our children, right? I believe you should be protecting your family. So maybe that's why life insurance is important. But the avenue is your passion about life. It's the passion for protecting people. It's the passion for moving people away from danger, not necessarily the product that you're pushing. And then always, once again, it's just always remember it's important not to prioritize so that you don't want to seem pushy, right? Remember, be the person who says, you know what, I'm willing to give you the time and be a person first. And if you need help, I'm willing to help you first. And later, we can do business as well. If that makes sense? Cool. Thanks.
Excellent. I hate going on after him because everything he says, I'm like, oh, yeah, I want to talk about that. Oh, that's great. By the way, write this down. People don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Oof. Yeah.
And I mean, if you think about that, people really don't care what you know. What side does this go up? What part of this goes up? Is it this side or this side? Either side? Okay. All right. We're professionals at this. If we got to figure it out now, we're in trouble. So thank you, David. And by the way, when John gets available with getting all the production stuff ready, he's going to be up here as well. Hello, Candace. Today's session is alternative selling approaches. So the things we're going to talk, we're only going to do 2 today out of about 10 that ultimately we'll talk about because these are likely going to be the first time you've ever heard these. So because much of what we do is, it falls into one of 3 categories. It's either a technique, it's a behavior, or an attitude. So if you think about it in terms of the function of it, a technique is the words. I can tell you what to say. The behaviors, I can even help you create the environment to say it. The attitude, however, is I can't move your lips. I can't force you to say it. So today's session is alternative selling approaches. We're going to focus on 2, but I'm going to start with a question. Does Tom Cruise have to audition for his jobs? How about Meryl Streep? Sir Anthony Hopkins? Probably not, right? But you'd think, they're actors. They're working actors, right? Everybody else has to go and audition. How come they don't? Exactly. They're that damn good. They get to pick and choose the deals they take. Their yes is the yes, right? Because if you think about it, you look on the flip side, right? Tom Cruise's yes about him being involved in a movie is the yes. Not the casting agent, right? Not the casting agent's deciding, not the producer, not the director. It's the actor. That is what we call, for those that are writing this down, write this down and we'll talk about it more in a second, sales by verdict. Sales by verdict. You've probably never heard this before, and that's why we're going to invest a significantly longer time than we normally do. Because in a selling situation, who basically decides historically whether the sales happens or not? Who? The buyer. Exactly, right? Because the salesperson wants to make every sale they can. I want to make, David does, John does, Jim does. You want to make every sale. So therefore, the buyer is the one that says yes. Their yes is the yes. Because we as salespeople, we always want a yes. But that's not in the case of Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise, yes, is the yes. Not the casting agent, not the producer, not the director. Sales by verdict essentially says, imagine if the salesperson's yes was the yes. Now think about that for a second. Because we're in a situation where we want to sell everybody, and I get that. But not every customer is a good customer. Anybody ever had a bad customer? Right? I will tell you, if they're a pain in the ass prospect, they don't get any better when they become your customer. They get nothing but worse. And most people, like the Tom Cruises of the world, have reached a point in their career where they can be selective on the people they do business with. There are some specific industries where their yes is the yes. So for example, mortgage company, right? You want to buy a new house. You go to the mortgage company, you give them all the paperwork, you meet with them a bunch of times, you do everything that they ask you. Now, whose yes is the yes, whether or not that sale takes place? Is it the buyers? No, it's the sellers. Now think about the power that you have in that situation. Think of the power Tom Cruise has. Or, because I will tell you, working with a lot of mortgage companies, I have never, ever been involved in a deal where the mortgage company says, yes, we can get you financed, and the person goes, okay, yeah, no, I was just thinking. I was looking. Just looking, right?
Just testing it.
How about the finance department of an auto dealership? You find the car of your dreams. Car of your dreams. They finally get the financing through. I've never, ever been involved in a situation where the person said, yeah, no, I'm just checking. Nah, I'm going to keep the car I have. Sales by verdict is a 180-degree shift from where most people think. Because most people think that the buyer has all of the power. In reality, the seller has all of the power. And here is why. Because your client has a problem. They have a problem. And anyone who's worked with us long enough knows how to finish this sentence. We are problem solvers. Anybody want to vote to that one? Looking for problems. Exactly. We're problem solvers looking for problems to solve. Right? If you come across a client that's badly in need of financial services and they don't ultimately do business with you, do they not still have the problem? Absolutely. But see, more times than that, we don't treat them like that. We almost go in there begging for the deal, right? That we're so desperate, we're begging for the deal. I have no problem if you're miserable, right? In my world, John knows that, right?
He makes me miserable all day long.
No, really. I have no problem if you're shoeless. I don't have any problem if you're homeless. I don't care if they're repoing your car. I don't care about any of those things. Why? Because I can't want your success more than you do. Oof. And if I'm not in the picture, there's a very good chance that that problem that you have is going to stay there.
I'll be there.
So when I talk to someone and I say this a lot, and you'll hear me say this, I don't know if I can help you. But I'll tell you what, go out, buy me lunch, tell me your woes, and if I can help you, I will. And if I can't, I'm going to say I can't. And by the way, I don't go anyplace shitty. All right? All right? This better be a good place. I don't want to go to I right? Now people are like, wow, you know.
Oh, that's where you buy me breakfast.
Well, I gotta get like a little symbol, like pop, right? But the idea ultimately is, see, I understand.
I want to go to La Paloma for breakfast.
See, we'll go to La Paloma from now on, right? But the idea ultimately is they have the problem. Tom Cruise knows that the success of that person's movie potentially hinges on the quality of the actors they have in the roles, right? That's exactly predicated on the actors. Right. I understand that the possibility of changing someone's challenging selling situation is on the other side of a potential relationship with me. Now, we all have our version of that. But the first sale that you make is between your ears. So sales of verdict basically says that my yes, the salesperson's yes, is now the yes. No longer the customer's. It's the salesperson. And when you take this and you internalize it, I will tell you your life will change. It will be like, and I use this all the time, like you saw fire for the first time. You got somebody who's depressed. They feel terrible. Their life sucks. All right? And that's their God-given right to be miserable. I say this all the time. It's your God-given right to be stupid. It's your God-given right to be poor, unhappy, miserable, hungry, shoeless. It's your God-given right to do all those things. It's your God-given right to be all the opposite of those things as well. But when you're talking to somebody, if you go to them and you say, well, listen, if you start doing business with me, you're going to feel so much better and blah, 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 blah. And as I come towards you, what's your natural defensive posture? Back up. Back up. Right? Because again, people don't want to be sold. Everybody wants to buy, but nobody wants to be sold. So if I say, look, I don't know if I can help you, I'll tell you what. We'll sit down, we'll have a coffee. You tell me your woes. If I think I can help you, I will. If I don't think I can help you, I'm going to say I can't help you. You okay with that? But you see how the language is built. I go into it assuming that you want to be my client. You've already made the sale. You've already decided that you want to do business with me. And my sales by verdict example, my yes is the yes. And there are people that I say no. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because you're going to screw up my perfect world. You're a pain in the ass now, right? I don't want you as a client. No, I'm not saying for you guys to do that, but that's the reality of the types of relationships you want to have. When you go into it, you're relatively new in the financial services business. People come to you when they have a problem, right? See, if they don't have any money, they go back to their own miserable life. I, on the other hand, go back to my wonderful life. Now, is it easy? No, of course not. Nothing's easy. But they still have the problem. So whereas you were saying, well, let's sit down and blah, 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 and I can help you. No. Your conversation is, I don't know if I can help you. I don't know if I can help you. You might be too broken, right? If you're retiring in 5 months and you have no money, well, unless I'm going to be printing it in my basement and giving it to you, there's a pretty good chance you're not going to get anywhere. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't help you, but that's the level of problem I want to make sure they understand. We are problem solvers looking for problems to solve. But most people don't want to bring up terrible things, right? They're never going to say, listen, you know, in 6 months, there's a good chance you're going to try suicide, right? That's a terrible thing to say. Oh, my God, I would never say for you to say it. I'd say it. Why? Because it's the truth. You're the one, you have the problem, right? If you're going downhill, very rarely does the application of nothing ever change the trajectory of anything, right? If you roll a ball straight, and unless you hit it or incline or gravity or something, it's going to keep going straight. What is that? Items in motion tend to stay in motion. Items at rest, Newton's law, tend to stay at rest.
Keep in mind, Mercury's on the side, right?
Exactly, right? But we all have a version of that. Every person in this room has a version of sales by verdict. Every person in this room has a position where their yes is the yes, right? You work with educational organizations, right? They've got kids that they got to keep happy and entertained and away from the razor blades and, you know, from jumping off the roof onto their head and all that kind of stuff. They have a lot of different things.
He can help with that.
Well, he can help with that, right? Right? But ultimately, the idea is they have a problem. They have a problem. How do you keep kids entertained? Because their way, they probably weren't, right? Maybe showing them a video, reading something that the kids just don't want to do. I got helicopters, and I got airplanes, and I got kites.
Yep. We know why things fly.
We know why things fly. So now you say, look, I don't know if I can help you, right? A lot of the schools that I go to have very poor extracurricular activities. I don't know. Maybe I'm too expensive. Don't know yet, right? Sit down, tell me your woes. If I can help you, I will. If I can't, I'm going to say, sorry, can't do it. Are you okay with that? Now think of the power in what I just said. Who's making the decision whether we move forward? You are, the salesperson. But the illustration I gave you as we came out of the gate is that we're so used to having the customer make the decisions. So this might be the first time you heard this.
No, so you sort of.
Well, yeah, I did.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
In this context.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, so,
because when people see this, it is life changing.
So, to me, you know, another way to hear this as well is recognizing that when is the impulsing, right? You know, when you impulse people, one of the greatest impulses is fear of loss, right? It has one of the greatest pulls on people. So what this is doing is pushing that button of fear of loss, letting them recognize that, guess what? This, you know, you always say, there's a problem, there's a solution, and then you usually do a pullback. And this is an
exactly.
example of a
you know
pullback.
What you need to do, and you step back from the edge.
And then say, guess what? Not everybody qualifies, right? Not everybody can get this. Guess what? I'm pretty expensive. I'm pretty exclusive. Doesn't mean I'll have enough time to do it, right? And what you're doing is creating an urge for that person to be like, wow, wait, I might not even get an opportunity to do this. What do I need to do? What is necessary for me to work with you? And what you're doing is presenting that by actually giving them the opportunity that you can take that away. That opportunity from them is actually creating the impulse that's actually going to pull them closer to you.
It's a form of negative sell. Scarcity sells. Yes. I mean, if you look at the things that are very expensive, they're very expensive. Why? There's very few of those. There's only a certain amount of Van Goghs on the face of the earth. There's only a certain amount of, 20-carat canary diamonds, which Mrs. Zavis wants, right? She's not going to get it. She wants it. She's not going to get it. What's that? That's a story for another day. But exactly, yeah. But you can see what's starting to form. He's absolutely right. we go into our relationships very needy, almost like we beg somebody to do business with us.
Correct.
And I will tell you that, again, the natural inclination is if you go forward to somebody, their natural inclination is to go back. I remember one time that because we were doing some animal training, and they said, if you've got an animal that's uncomfortable with you, this is when we had our first dogs. He said, if you go towards an animal, what is the animal likely to do? Right? Exactly. It goes back. It might growl. Because if you're worried, step back from it and just sit down. Just sit down. Get down to their eye level. Just sit down. Don't call them. Don't say anything. Don't do anything. Almost ignore them. What do? Exactly.
Investigate.
When you're happy, like David said, when you're happy and you're enjoying life and you love what you do, it's that gravity, it's that natural gravity that people come towards you. And that's why if you get the concept of sales by verdict, and if you don't know how this works in your industry, this is a perfect time. Put your hand up. We'll use you as a 2-minute case study. Everybody, we'll do ladies first. You could have just been rubbing your head. Okay. All right. Which, by the way, I'll take him in the back. But you know, interesting, I saw a thing 2 weeks ago. I was going to call you. Yeah, we'll do. Do you know one of the top 10 things that people want is a great photograph of themselves? There's a study, if you do a Google search right now, of the top 10 things that people want. I don't remember where it was from. I think it was like a woman's magazine or something like that. But one of the top 10 things they said that they wanted was a great photograph of themselves. Now think about that if you're a photographer. Everybody wants that great photograph of themselves. They want that, you know, so 20 years in the future when they're still using it on their, you know, they're still using it on their Facebook post, right?
Dating
you know,
sites.
exactly, yeah, their dating sites, you know, it's my picture when I was 21. But the idea ultimately is we all have a version of that. So we're going to go in the back of the room. I know what you do, but can you share it for the group? Right.
Real golf course. This day.
Yes.
40 years later, college, I worked.
Yep.
An airport.
Yep.
So, what I do, coach. I'm a
Yep.
I'm a graduate of Pueblo High School.
Yep.
I also graduate
Nice.
Yep.
and also lumberjack. But I am how to be.
I fully agree.
Anything else? My name is Luis.
See, I knew somebody was going to say that because it was going to be me. So now let's use you as an example. Somebody comes to you. So most community colleges or most educational venues in general say what? We'll take anybody. We want anybody, especially in a community college situation, which is more of a accepting. They don't have quite the rigid, you know, academic guidelines other universities might have. Is that a fair statement? All right. So when somebody comes to you and you're selling that community college experience, what do they want to hear? Well, you need to come to community college. You need to come to Pima. We're great, blah, 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 blah. We have this and this and this and this. Under this program, what might you say?
How can we serve?
But even so much, I'd go one step further and say, maybe college isn't for you at this point. We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. You're a stranger to me. Right? You might be a great student, but I don't know at this point in time. I'll tell you what. We'll sit down over a coffee. You tell me what you have going on. And based on my experience, if I think you'll succeed in a college environment, I'll tell you. If I think that you might struggle, I'll tell you that as well. Are you okay with that? Absolutely. And when you ask for that, are you okay with that, you get their buy-in. But you see the difference. Now this person is going to be selling you on why you should accept them, not us begging them as to why they should come to our school.
I think another approach also you could do would be like saying, you know what? You know, Pima has a proud history, and some of the most famous graduates all started out here at Pima.
Absolutely,
So
a lot of them.
So my job is to continue that success. Can you tell me why you would be an asset to Pima College?
Love that. Love that.
Right?
I like you're a legend.
Yes.
What are you maker? What are you going to this community?
Absolutely. As well as improve the reputation of this fine establishment.
Right.
Again, if you're doing it right, they're selling you on why they should do business with you. You're not selling them. So the idea is that sales by verdict is the salesperson's yes is the yes, not the customer's. Historically, the customer's yes is the yes. In sales by verdict, it's switched. And for anybody, again, this is a 2-hour session. We're going to do it as a sniglet. Reach out to one of the three of us and we'll go more in depth. The second thing I want to talk today is about self-select. Self-select. And I always like to start with a little bit of a conversation. There was a period of time long before the internet where if you wanted to buy something.
Wait, there was?
Yeah, there was. Life existed. My daughter doesn't believe so, right? But there was a time before the internet when you basically, if you wanted to buy something, right, from Sears, you had one of two choices. What were they? That's one.
Or magazine?
Order out of the catalog on the phone, right?
Okay, yeah.
You would order on the phone. So you had two choices. You would go in or you would order on the phone. And what these major retailers realized in about the end of the 1970s, early 1980s, was that there were people that had different reasons for calling in. So, for example, if it's December 1st, you could be calling in for Christmas. But you could also be calling in just because you need socks. It has nothing to do with Christmas, you just need socks. The problem being is that the 1-800 number they have, everybody's in the same pool. The people that want to buy something for Christmas and the people that just need socks. And the problem being is because you just need socks, you're not going to sit on hold for 15 minutes while the people who need it for Christmas are placing their order. So the very smart retailer said, you know what? Right in the beginning, right when somebody calls in, we should give them the opportunity to tell us which one they are. Are they the person that wants it for Christmas? Or are they the person who just needs to buy socks? And that you'll see the first series of menus appeared in the late 70s, early 80s. Now, when you call every place, now push one for this, two for this, push 197 for this, 140. No, there was a time when there was nothing. People answered the phone. Hi, thank you for calling JCPenney's. But you might have been on hold for a half hour just to buy socks if it's December. So they said, well, you know what? We don't want to piss off the people that just want to buy socks, so we're going to give them an option. When you call in, we're going to take you to a menu, and it's going to say, if you'd like this for Christmas, press 1. If you're not concerned about having it delivered for Christmas, press 2. That was the first issue of the self-select. Now, every iteration now has gone further and further. So now when you call the local Fry's, it says, push 1 for bakery, 2 for frozen foods, 3 for this, 4 for this. But there was a time when self-selection was absolutely in their infancy. Everyone was dealt with under the same thing.
The technology of from the rotary button phone was the impetus.
Absolutely.
That's what allowed
Yep.
the phone tree
Yes.
to now blossom.
Yep, the technology caught up with the options that were available. But now these very smart retailers understand this. So now every time you call somebody, there's all these menu options. And the idea is to make it a more pleasurable customer experience for you. Because if you have a question about bakery and you're calling Fry's, you don't want to go through 10 other people. You want to go right to the bakery and ask your question. Yep. Now imagine your Fry's. We have versions of information. We have ways that we can allow the clients to self-select for us in such a way where we will be able to deal with them differently. So, for example, somebody that's in an acute situation, they might be dealt differently when somebody who just has some simple issues. And if you give them the opportunity to say, this is my 1-800 hotline. This hotline is answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, 100% of the time. If you call this number, somebody is going to answer it. So the person that's likely calling that number, knowing that that's the scenario about it, is likely having what problems? An acute problem. Whereas the person that just calls you normally out of the blue right? Same, your situation, you get somebody who comes in, right? Maybe they need to find a job tomorrow, right? But to go through school. But if they get enrolled in your electrician program, there are people that even if you're just enrolled in the program, would hire you as a journey, as an electrician, just being enrolled in a even if it's one day. So if somebody came and said, I need to make money today, you're not going to offer it a 2-year, 3-year program. Why? Because they can't make money for 2 or 3 years. Right. But you have programs available. They could potentially go into the workforce day one. Self-select. I always talk to people and I say, how quickly do I need to make money? How fast do you want to make money? That's it. You tell me. Because if you say I need to make payroll on Friday, we're going to have a different conversation as opposed to them saying, you know what, we want to have a much better 2024 than we did 2023. They will self-select if you ask them, right? It could be problems. So Heather, so you're talking to a client about financial services. How many different financial services products do you offer? A lot, right? So the idea is maybe you have a very simple questionnaire. So before you meet with somebody, the questionnaire says, do you have a question on retirement? Annuities, insurance, right? Candace is talking to somebody. We allow them to self-select. And the nice thing about self-selection is we can add an automated component to it. We can put a portion of it into our website. We can put a portion of it into our Facebook. There are ways, and some mechanical ways, that we can bring in the self-selection to allow the client to communicate to us what they want before we ever interact with them. Because if they're having a problem, we want to know they're having a problem immediately. We don't want to go into the conversation, okay, Bob, tell me about you. Why are you here today? Right. You want to be able to let them self-select. So an alternative selling approach is allowing them to give you a component of self-selection prior to your first interaction with them.
So today you would call, these marketing systems now, like that, right?
Yes.
So think about it is in terms of, it's our job is all your clients or prospects is basically putting them to different funnels, right?
Could
so
be,
thinking of it as a funnel,
Absolutely.
funnel system.
Sure.
So we're going to funnel them into different categories. What type of person, like he says, either acute, how much they need,
yes.
What type of approach do I need to?
Yes.
There are going to be some people that they need to talk to you, or guess what? Some people, you're going to be directed to Don, and you won't go to me.
Sure, and it could be something, again, you don't have to make a substantial investment in technology. You could have certain prefaces to certain things. For example, if you put 911 on your text to me, that immediately is going to be responded to immediately. So if I get a text that says 911, you get a call immediately. You allow the clients to self-select. They will tell you the level of their crisis, the level of their pain, the level of their concern, the level of their responsiveness. So again, going back to the example we did for JCPenney on the phone, right? If I'm talking to somebody, if I was self-selecting a sales training client, I could potentially have 3 boxes. Do you? Hi, good morning. Would you need to make money immediately? Check box number 1. Are you looking to have 2024 be a better year than 2023? Check number 2. Are you looking to increase your referrals? Check box number 3. You're communicating to me who and what you are before we actually interact. So an alternative selling approach is you want to put as much of the onus on the client to communicate to you their unique situation. So when you start the conversation, you're fully prepared for where they are today. So if somebody says, I need to make money today, the conversation will be very different than if the person says, I want 2024 to be a better year than 2023.
But on that note, it can be a slippery slope if you're creating your own, selection system, because there are companies out there that create so many and go deep rabbit hole that now you cross the line from satisfaction to frustration.
Absolutely.
And you've got to stay on the very razor edge there that it can really be beneficial to all parties. Once you cross that line, now all of a sudden everybody's pissed off.
Yeah.
Now it's annoying.
Yeah, it
now
is.
It's annoying.
Yeah.
Now it's annoying. So just make sure that if you're gonna do that in your own personal world, then make sure you just don't overdo it.
Yeah. And generally the way to do it is to identify 2 or 3 of the very high line issues that you have. So I'll use a financial planner again. Are you concerned about your retirement? Will you be retired within the next 12 months? Now that's again a different conversation, but most people kind of take everybody the exact same way. They put them all through the same funnel. And what ends up happening is that they lose the ability to move them into a selling situation quickly. Because the person is going to potentially retire in the next 12 months. Well, they can't kick this can down the road for another 2 years. They're probably already too late to do a lot of the things. They need to start today. So my conversation with them is, okay, Bob, are you ready to start today? Because what you've told me requires, it should have been a start 5 years ago, but at the very least requires a start today. If he says, well, no, I was just looking, well, that's a very different conversation. That's not a person that needs to have reaction and needs to have reaction quickly.
Okay.
So the idea of self-select is you have to know, and again, the onus is on us, right? Do you want to know what's going to happen in 2024? Or are you concerned about next week? I agree. But if I'm talking to a prospect, I'm not going to go after both. I want one, and I want the one that's the most saleable. So the person that wants to know what's going to happen in their horoscope in a week, you think they're going to be a faster client that wants to know what's going to happen in 2024?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
Sure, I'm going to go to the fastest money, right? So if the first thing is the person wants to know what happens next week, well, we got to get it done now in order to be prepared for next week. They should be talking about summer of 2024 with you. Why? Because there's one of you. When you book up, their problem still exists. So the idea of the self-select gives you the opportunity, and by the way, it does one critical thing. It forces you to do the things that you should be doing, which is clarifying your message. Being able to communicate a menu of opportunities with somebody. So in your case, if you're talking to someone on the email, you might ask them to self-select. Are you looking for something in this semester? Are you looking for something over the Christmas break? Or are you looking for something over the summer break? Because the conversation is very different. If they're looking for something over the winter semester or over the winter break, they have to commit today. Our conversation is going to be talking about a decision now. If they're looking for something not until the summer of next year, our conversation is going to be very different. So you go into it speaking to their listening. The idea of speak to their listening is you're going to talk about their problem that they've communicated. If they say, well, we need something for the fall of this year, you're not going to say, well, let me tell you about all the great things we got in 2024. They don't care about that. And their focus is here.
And I think another thing, what we want to do is recognize, like, we're putting our customers or our clients in categories, right?
Yep.
And so the two type of categories that you want are there's buyers in power, and there's a buyers in heat, right?
Yes.
And so, like as he's talking about, it's the proximity. How much do they need this? If you figure out this, but this is a buyer in heat. This is the person I can work with now. Right. Let me get them with. Or a buyer in power is a person who wants your product, can afford it, but doesn't have a sense of urgency that you need or want to. And so they're put in a category that now I'm going to sell you today, but I have to turn a buyer in power into a buyer in heat. And so therefore now I know I have to work with that person to get them to become a buyer who's actually in heat. And so once again, it's categorizing the people, and so it's what you actually have to do to put in the work in each type of customer.
Absolutely.
So you actually know who you're dealing with.
It will also help in one thing that a lot of times people say, well, when are you thinking about doing something? A lot of salespeople will ask that question. When are you thinking about doing something? That invites a lie. Because if the prospect knows, if they say, well, I'm not going to do anything for 2 years, there's a very good chance the salesperson is going to lose interest. So you're inviting a lie. They're going to say, well, right away, because that's what they want. They want you to have their stuff. By entering the self-selection mechanism, you take out that conversation of when were you thinking about doing something. You're covering that right in the beginning. This year, next month, next year. Again, you don't want to invite a lie. Be very careful. So any final question before we go around the room? All right, let's go. We'll go right over here to a new person. What'd you get from today's session? You can. Oh, absolutely. Sure, because if you've got somebody that has a great enough problem, the selling them is easy. But we get so needy and we get so desperate to make the sale. So when you come back and say, look, I don't know if I can help you. I think you may have already waited too long. But I'll tell you what, buy me a cup of coffee, tell me what's going on. If I can help you, I will. And if I can't, I'm going to say I can't. You okay with that? Think of that. Again, how would you like your yes to be the yes? And I do it all the time. And again, we use the Tom Cruise examples and the business examples. And, you know, if Elon Musk, called your college and said, I want to be your commencement speaker, you think most people are going to say, yeah, no, no. No, of course they're going to say yes. Why? Because those people's yes is the yes. They probably get 1 million people ask them. Their yes is the yes. Jim, what'd you get?
Don't beg.
Don't beg. No, it's their problem. It's their problem. We're problem solvers looking for problems to solve. If you look hard enough, and don't make it easy on people. Most people don't like to bring up hard stuff. Now, I'm not saying, here's what I would start with. You ever considered suicide? That's a terrible thing to say, right? Right? Now, think about that. I mean, I took the hammer, and we just went from here to Mach 50 in one sentence, right? But that's the reality. Because if you're here, I don't want to go like this to get to you. I want to start there, because if you say yes, then our conversation is we start today. That's it. If they're like, no, right, I'm just a little depressed, we're not going to have the same kind of, oomph that we would normally have. All right? Go in the back of the room. What'd you get? Please.
Heather.
Heather.
Buys this money.
Yes.
Green. Our fast wallet. Fast forward back.
Yep.
John, we don't have our workforce.
Okay.
But we do, and this is why I sit at the edge.
Right.
We have our fast track.
Perfect.
program.
That's perfect.
So, Heather, the thing about it is our fast track program is not fun. They have to phone. So financial advice, if my son or daughter wants to go to the program, graduate
Yep.
high school, how can us as saving now, getting fast,
Exactly.
so that in 6 months
Perfect.
later, they're gone out the
Perfect.
working for automotive. That's what our
A-
fast track program.
Absolutely, that's right. You want to give them that, again, you want to put the onus on, we're saying yes to them. They're not saying yes to us. We're offering them different programs that other people don't have. So we can have a level of selectivity in order to be involved. Who we got to do? Let's do Candace, because Candace was here at the beginning. What'd you get from today's session, Candace? Well, if she did, it would have. Yeah, that's true. Everybody is looking for the great photograph. So thank you, everybody. We'll keep this up on the board. If you have any questions about this and how it interacts with your business, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to fill in the blanks, and then we'll start our general session here in about 10 minutes.